Every problem in your business is a people problem. You change one person on a team, the team dynamics change.
Right.
The team dynamics change. It doesn't matter if it's one person or if it's 5 people. It changes. Think of all the work you do trying to get a good person into your company, and then you put them with the wrong leader, or that leader doesn't know how to motivate them or deliver their message to them, and they leave the company because of that. That's a huge chunk of your finances walking out the door because that leader didn't manage them properly.
Hey guys, we're here with Jason Taylor today from Predictive Success. We just finished doing a rollout with my team. It was a bit of a mind blow, which was great. And we're looking forward to a great pod today. We got some great questions with Jason, and I'm sure he's going to deliver some great tips. Tell us a little about your history and how you got to where you are now.
What a road. So I started out with a beer company, carrying a bag and doing sales for a big company, Labatt. Went on to run their national key account program for the country. Then got into the spirit side of the business and operations and restaurant side. And then I got the entrepreneurial bug, and I brought a brand into Canada with my partners. And we always had a plan to get out of that. That was a 5-year plan. Let's just go in and do what we do. But while I was doing that, I was actually a client of my current company.
Okay.
Right? So David, my partner in crime, said, "Hey, you should come over here." Right. And we had a discussion. How do we work together? And how do we do this? And we did that. And he founded the Predictive Success in 2008. I joined in 2015. And since that, together, we've become the number one global partner for Predictive Index worldwide.
Amazing.
So yeah, we get we're very fortunate because, well, you heard me talk about it, better work, better world, right? We don't feel like this is work to us, right? This is, I don't drive to Muskoka today saying, I can't believe I have to talk to Kevin and his team. I think, well, great, I get to see some people and, chat with some people about their problems and teach and train, and how do we get better and how do we become more productive. And
right.
Specifically in this sector, there's a lot of people that need some people help, right? So I get to go do that, and fortunate, I don't think of it as work. That's why it works so well with David and I. We love what we do, and we get to go around the world doing that.
Yeah, it's amazing. We met a couple months ago at a conference you were speaking at, which was excellent. And that's kind of what got me thinking about it. And then we just had a great conversation with some of the team, kind of talking about what you do and how it works. And we had done an assessment on one of the guys that was like bang on accurate. For not ever meeting him and being able to give that sort of feedback was really incredible.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about why it works so well. Like that, I know it's a scientific process.
Yeah.
You walked us through it, but it's amazing how well it works.
Yeah. It works so well because of a few reasons. One, it's simple to do, right? So you've done it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It takes less than 6 minutes to do. It's 2 questions. And you're simply picking words, and each of those words go into what we call a bucket. And we measure 4 factors. We measure what's that person's dominance factor, what's that person's extroversion factor, what's their patience factor, and what's their formality factor. And based on the words you pick, it goes into one of those buckets, right? But it's not just the words you pick; it's the words you don't pick that creates the algorithm to determine who that person is and how that person's going to behave.
Right.
And we have many conversations, and we have that conversation. When we have an interview with somebody, or when somebody's currently on our team, because it's not just for hiring, it's for managing and inspiring and getting more productivity out of your current team as well. But most times we just see the behaviors of the person, and we kind of think, why is that guy or that girl acting that way? Right? When we do that, it's because we don't know their drives, right? So what the survey does is it measures their drives. And if I have a drive, it means I need something. If I need something, I'm going to behave a certain way to get it, right? So drives create needs create behaviors, right? Problem is we usually only see the behaviors. So when we back that up and we predict the drives, we can then see how they're going to behave.
Right. Now it's fantastic. We should maybe explain too, like, the benefits of it and how it can be used. I mean, we just went through that with my team, and I think it just opens up these incredible avenues to, and maybe you can speak a little more too about like retention and turnover and how that really helps improve those areas.
Yeah, for sure. So I use the assessment. So the biggest common misconception is people say, oh, I'm not hiring this year, so I don't need it, right? I use it for several things. I use it to, how do I inspire my current team? How do I design the proper teams within my team? Because every company has teams, right? Every company has many teams, quite frankly. So if you're a company, you have your leadership team, you have your operations team, you have your finance team, you have your sales team, you have your marketing team, right? So how do all the teams work together, first and foremost? And then how can I get to my results quicker, right? And we talked about this as well. Every problem in your business is a people problem. Whether you're a 4 or 5 person company or a 5,000 person company, every problem is a people problem, right? And when you're lying awake at night and you're not sleeping, I often say it's because you're thinking of a person, right? Why can't I get through to that person? Why isn't that person engaged? Why do they constantly do things wrong? Why is that person awesome? Why can't I clone them? Why does that team do better work than the other team, and they do the exact same job, right? So we use the assessment to get a deep understanding of the people in our organization so we can get to our results quicker. And when you talk about the financial part of it, if I increase my retention, like we discussed, and my turnover decreases, and at a big end, I inspire my current team, those 3 things together equal efficiency. Mm-hmm. If I have an efficient team, they're going to be productive. If I have a productive team, that means they're engaged. If I have an engaged team, it's going to drive my culture, right? And culture has a direct line on my bottom line. And we just talked about this. Mm-hmm. It's not a fluke or something lucky that happens that great companies work hard on culture, and great companies that have great culture make more money than companies that don't have great culture, right? Because a low cultured company is constantly fighting to keep people, get people more efficient, get people more productive. And there's always this fight and this friction between everybody, and they don't get to their results. When we get that fixed and take steps to make that better, all of a sudden we get to a really cool state, and it starts running by itself because it's contagious. Right. Culture is contagious. We've all had a bad apple in our company at one point, and you think to yourself, that's spreading right now because that person's spewing negativity or not doing things or not engaged, and that spreads, right? So same with great culture spreads. If I know to be on this team, the rules to be on this team are I have to conduct myself in this way, and this is how the team functions, and this is our values, this is our beliefs, and my behaviors align with that, we get to a really cool state.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think, in the industry today, and we touched on this when we met earlier too, it's such a big topic.
Yeah.
Everybody struggles with it.
Yep.
Everybody's working on it. Some people aren't buying into it.
Yep.
And I think it's unfortunate because I think, moving forward as our companies grow or our businesses improve or we have to pivot to accommodate market change, having this sort of information, the benefits of it are tremendous. And I think, like we talked about with the team, being able to make those sort of decisions on what person should be with what crew leader and how they teach versus how they need to be taught or how they like to be taught. And I think just overall, when we talk about build better people, that just flows so well with culture. So I really see the value, and it's a funny thing because I think when I first started listening to you at the conference, I was like, this sounds a little hokey, who's this? And then about halfway through, I was like, that makes total sense. And then when we did mine, I was like, that's me. And then today with Lane. So all great stuff. From an industry perspective, how do you think it can benefit businesses? We have a wide range in the community at the Wealthy Landscaper, but let's say a business that's doing $1 million and only has maybe 5 or 6 employees versus a company that is doing 10 and has 40 employees. Like, how do they use the information to make things better? Yeah.
So $1 million business versus a $10 million business, the still number one problem is people. It's just different, right? So a $10 million business, they can make a people mistake, and they feel it, and it hurts them, and they think, oh, why did I make that decision? And it costs them some money. $1 million business, they really feel it.
Yes.
And it can, like, they actually notice it in their monthly finances. They actually notice it at the end of the year and whatnot. So whether you're a 5-person company or a 5,000-person company, or a 50-person company, whatever, your problem with people has to be managed, but just differently. So with a smaller company, $1 million company, we look at how do we structure the team properly? What role do you need right away as opposed to every role? There might be people that are doing multiple roles because you can't afford two people and you can't have individual silos right now where you might have to have a person that's doing many roles. So what we do in every company is just different. The way we do it within a smaller company is we assess every role in the company on what specific needs that business needs based on the role that they're hiring for.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. You may be hiring an operations manager, okay? But a smaller business, $1 million business might say, hey, the operations manager also needs to be the tech on site and also needs to be the person managing 3 other projects on the side, right? 2 different roles, right? Yours is a silo role. This is what I want the operations manager to do. Theirs is I need him to be an operations manager, but I also need him or her to be, a bit of this and a bit of that too, right? So we're very, very big on not do we just know the person, we need to know what role they're going into. And when we assess the role, and you've done it, it takes 10 minutes to assess a role, we see the behaviors of that role, and then we match the behaviors of the person to that role. And then science tells us if they're fit or not for the job.
Right.
Right. And will they do the job versus can they do the job?
Right.
Right. So will versus can, big statement.
Right.
Right.
Massive. I really like the idea of, when we were looking at the org chart, we're talking about the org chart, being able to look at who we're hiring for, knowing what sort of role they need to fit into.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a lot of benefits there in that growth strategy. But the other interesting thing I was thinking about was, we've all, or I have for sure, and I'm sure other people that are watching have, put people into roles and struggled with why they couldn't do it. And it probably wasn't that they couldn't do it, knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
But maybe speak a little bit about how hard it is to change that, that initial assessment.
Yeah. So when we look at a person coming into our company, when we have every role assessed, whether that role is open or not, at one point that role will be open, I promise you, or it will change, or the person will either get promoted or they'll move to another company or they'll move laterally or we'll have somebody coming into the company. We assess every role. Then what's great is I can actually say, here's the behaviors of the person and here's all of our rules. What does their career path look like? Right? So I may think he's an amazing sales guy. He's going to be the next sales manager, but I could be doing him a disservice because maybe he's not a good sales manager.
Right.
Totally different behaviors than a sales rep, right? So now we can actually plot not just if they're a good candidate fit, we can plot what does their succession look like in the company, and I can actually plan as if I'm the owner of the company. What is this company going to look like in 5 years? What is it going to look like next year? Smaller company, $1 million company. What is it going to look like in 6 months?
Right.
What's it going to look like in a year?
Right.
Bigger company. What's my 5-year plan? What's my 10-year plan? Who's taking over this business? Right? Because sometimes the person that you think's taking over the business is not the person that should take over the business.
Right.
And you have to adjust because of that. Right. So we use it for career mapping our people, getting the right person in the right role, and improving the relationships. What I stress to my clients all the time is there's 4 factors of engagement when somebody comes into your company. Okay. The 4 factors of engagement are the exact same 4 factors of disengagement.
Right.
Okay. First and foremost, right person, right role. Is the right person sitting in the right chair? Because then I create better work, better world, right? They actually like what they're doing. They're not looking at their watch every 2 seconds. They enjoy coming to work. Okay. Then second factor of engagement, who's leading the team? Who's the manager of the team? Right? We've all left companies because of bad leaders, right? Managers.
Yes. That's
a shame, because think of all the work you do trying to get a good person into your company, and then you put them with the wrong leader, or that leader doesn't know how to motivate them or deliver their message to them, and they leave the company because of that. That's a huge chunk of your finances walking out the door because that leader didn't manage them properly. Okay. The third level of engagement, disengagement, is what team am I on? So again, within every company, there's many different teams. right? So if you think of a hockey team, there's the coaching staff, the forwards, the D, the power play, the PK, the penalty kill. There's thousands of teams within a team, right? So what team am I on? And do I feel like I'm part of that team? And when I say that, I mean, when you go to a house party, I always say, are you in the kitchen with everybody else, right? Like house parties, let's be in the kitchen. That's where the music, the food, and the drinks are. Or am I off to the side, sitting in the living room by myself? Do I feel part of it, right? And then the fourth part of engagement, disengagement is the culture of the company. Where's this company going? Is there growth in this company?
Right.
Do I like who's leading the company? Do I believe in the company that I want to stay here? If you get those four factors in line with each other, again, all people problems, right? Your company soars and you grow from 1 million to 10 million pretty fast.
When people, bring you in for support, how does it work with like the coaching? Like you've done your assessments, you understand how somebody needs to be trained. Do you guys provide some ideas on how to best train them?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few steps that we do. We have levels of implementation, right? Depending on what your pain points are, right? So what I say is, and I say this all, we've talked about it, I'm in your bullpen. So it's like, okay, how are we going to implement this? What do we need to do first? And we take it in steps. Usually it starts with, let's assess all the roles, assess all the people on the team. Now we have kind of who the team is, right? It could be different if it's a totally different company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking at different roles or buying a company or whatever's going on, right? But we have different levels of implementation. I always suggest to get 1 or 2 people trained on the platform. So it gets really sticky in your organization. You start making really good decisions based on facts and analytics and science as opposed to just our gut. And then you use my company as I need some help with this, right? And what I do with my clients is I actually schedule time with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, hey, listen, let's put some stuff in our calendar right now. And on my discussions, I say, hey, it could be, hey, things are going great, but why are they going great? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you having such a productive?
Yeah, it's still a good time to review.
Right? Exactly. Right. The great golfers, when they've had a great game, they usually go back to the driving range and they think, I just want to memorize what I'm doing right now and what's working, so this doesn't leave my head right now. Right. So it's just as important to have those meetings with myself where we say, hey, things are going great. How do we keep this momentum going? Or there's been some hiccups.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we need to fix it?
Right.
So that's how my company engages. You have a consultant that works with you year round. You usually have 1 or 2 people trained in your organization, and then you use the platform for analytics on the decisions you're making.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Let's talk about becoming an entrepreneur. Is it something that you always knew, or you kind of fell into? How did that transition go for you?
Yeah. So it actually goes back to culture. So I was working for a company. I was very high level within the company. Level above me was kind of telling me the messages that we have to tell the people below me. Right. And I started actually not believing what I was saying. And it was a real shift in culture. We got bought by another company. And it was a real shift in culture. And I went home one day and I just said, you know what? I'm not enjoying this anymore because I'm not believing what I'm saying.
Right.
And I was, telling my team, you know what, this is going to be good. And I know they made this decision, but it's good for us. Don't worry about it. And then one day I was just looking in the mirror and I thought, I actually don't believe what I'm saying right now. And I didn't like that feeling. Right. So that's when I actually said, it's time. And I jumped in with both feet.
Mm-hmm.
And the only regret I have is that I didn't do it sooner.
Right.
Right.
Always the way.
Yeah, always the way.
Yeah.
Right. So the benefit of doing it when I did is I had a huge network, and I had a big network of people I could draw on and people I could go and have discussions and conversations with. The disadvantage was, man, I enjoy what I'm doing right now. And I enjoyed what I was doing, but I absolutely love what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And again, to our point earlier, it doesn't feel like work to me.
Right.
Like when I'm driving up here, I'm just saying, cool drive up. And
it's got to be an interesting feeling too, going from the struggles of being an entrepreneur, or the ups and downs, I should say, of being an entrepreneur, to moving into predictive success, and learning how it works and all the ins and outs of it. It must have just created like this calming, sort of effect. Yeah, I could only imagine. Once you learn that stuff, it's like, okay, well, this is why this is happening, or this is why I feel in this way.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in mindset, and I'm a big believer in positive energy, and you attract what you attract, and David, there's a reason that David and I had that conversation.
Right.
And now I get to do what I love. I'm very altruistic in the way I like helping people solve problems.
Right.
And I get a kick out of it. Right. I enjoy saying, hey, you know what? Let's have a look at that a different way. I like respectfully challenging somebody and saying, I know you've thought about it that way all your life, but can we maybe think about it this way and just go about it a different way? But ultimately, how do we solve this problem so it's not a problem anymore? Right. Because guess what? After we solve that one, another problem will come on.
Yeah.
Right. That's just the world of owning a business.
Yeah.
Especially in this sector, landscape.
Yes.
There's always a people problem, right? So it
always fires.
Yeah, there's always fires, right? So yeah, that's why I love it.
A lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs, certainly in the landscape industry, construction, maintenance, all types. What are some of the things you learned as an entrepreneur that you think may help, or what sort of advice would you give to somebody who is kind of struggling with those ups and downs and the tribulations that come with owning a seasonal business?
Yeah. So specifically in this sector, you have to get the roles right? Because that's going to take a lot of your headaches away. In my experience so far working with the landscape business, there's certain things that I see in behaviors of really high potential people in certain roles.
Right.
The 4-person role. I see a high dominance and I see a low patience. They want to make the decision.
Yeah.
And
Not a great combo.
Yeah. But it works for the 4-person because,
right.
Why? Because they want to make the decision. And by the way, they move with urgency, right? So they're going to drive the crew to get there and move a little quicker. But the lead hand has to be a little more collaborative. Okay, now I have a crew working with me. I've got to be a little more systematical and methodical in who's doing what on the site this day.
Right.
Crew member, very collaborative. What's my task today? What do you want me to do? What is my job to do today? Right? They want clarity, right? So if we really dissect, and I'm like literally down to the hourly roles, we get to a more efficient team, right? And you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes that aren't well planned, right? So we know that it's a seasonal business, but we're always on a panic to hire within the last 2 weeks of when the season starts.
Right.
Why don't we know that? Right. So how can we actually plan the year, have a little more of a detailed calendar plan on what does my year look like? When am I hiring? When is spring kickoff? How are the crews going to be designed? Who's going to be leading the crews? How many crews do I have? Why is that crew outperforming that crew every single year? Right. It could be one person on that team. And that's the reason it is. It could be one person. Right. Teams are interesting because you'll see, people will say to me, hey, that team went to, the Stanley Cup last year. And this year they didn't even make the playoffs. And I'll say, well, the team changed. And they'll say, not really. They just changed, one defenseman and a forward. And I'll say, you change one person on the team dynamics change.
Right.
The team dynamics change. It doesn't matter if it's one person or if it's 5 people. It changes.
Right.
So
yeah, it's great tips for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that everybody needs to just sit back, digest, understand, know that it's going to happen. Like that's the biggest thing of being an entrepreneur. Just know those things are going to happen.
Yeah. Plan for the surprise in your day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. One of the things that I thought was really interesting when we were talking about hiring, most people when they come in seem like they're high energy, or often they're uncomfortable because of their personality or their interview. Yeah. So, I mean, I thought that whole topic of the assessment, kind of diluting that so that you're really understanding them more than you did from the interview was very interesting as well.
So to that point, when you interview somebody, when you have the system, we give you specific interview questions that you need to ask them based on their behaviors that are misaligned to the role and based on their behaviors that are aligned to the role.
Right.
Because our conversation earlier, when people say to me, I didn't get a second interview, I literally think, why not?
Right.
There's so many things that a person can do to plan for that interview nowadays and open up with rapport and whatnot. Right. When I have the right questions to ask that person based on how they behave, I can get to the real person. I can confirm what I think they're going to be good at, and I can dig deep on, am I going to be able to get that person to where I need them to be? Right. How many times have we actually interviewed somebody and a month later on the site, you think that's not the person I interviewed?
Right.
Right. And many. Right. And that costs a lot of money. Right. So the way we look at it is we look at the whole person. Okay. So the whole person is, their briefcase or in their knapsack, that's their education, their references, their skills, the past job experience, et cetera, et cetera. We look at their heart, right? That's their values, their interests. I get that through conversation. What are you into? Are you going to be a good fit for the team? Is the team are you going to resonate with the team? Is there going to be some camaraderie there?
Right.
But the third is, what are their behavioral and their cognitive drives? And that's the biggest predictor of success.
Right.
Right. So I never say, that person has to be a 10 out of 10 on the assessment before I hire them. No, that's not the way to look at it. I look at the entire person, but do I put a lot of emphasis on the behavioral assessment and the cognitive assessment? Yes, I do.
Right.
I do. I think, especially if you're key to entry in my organization, I look and say, yeah, are you going to be a good fit for my organization? Or if I'm taking a chance on you, how much coaching am I going to have to do to get you to where I need to go? And do I have the energy to do that? Because it's not fair to you if I'm bringing you into the organization and I'm not having the energy to coach you to get to where I need to go.
Right.
Can you imagine a crew member coming in and the lead hand or the foreman says, you know what, yeah, there you go, have at it.
Right.
They're not going to last.
Right.
They're not going to last.
Well, I think it just gives you so many more tools.
Yeah.
Right. Because maybe, like you said, maybe you have somebody that would be a good coach for that particular person.
The other thing I find too, Kev, is this industry doesn't do a great job with performance reviews.
Yes.
They're not great at it. Right. And performance reviews are essential in the organization and specifically in this sector because I can actually save money if I do a proper performance review. Mm-hmm. So in this industry, I like to say, let's do a preseason, a during the season, and a postseason, right? Because if I'm working for you and I say, hey, Kev, I need to speak to you Monday morning, I need some time. You're thinking one or two things. Jason's quitting or Jason wants a raise.
Right.
One or two things you're thinking, okay? In the performance review, that increases our communication into the organization and it builds trust. Okay? Trust and communication, those are the two pillars of business, okay? In the platform, there's an actual report, two reports, that actually say, hey, during this performance review, I'm actually going to ask this person these specific questions based on their behaviors that are either misaligned or aligned to the role. So I can double down on what I need more of them. Or I can say, hey, here's a blind spot. I need you to get better at it.
Right.
And now let's develop an action plan so I can give you that raise. And I'm getting more too. Right? So because if you're asking for a raise, okay, I'll give you the raise, but I need something in return.
Sure.
And I need you to be a little more efficient, productive. I need you to be part of it, right? So you actually have reports in there based on understanding the person on what to ask them, how to coach them properly to get to a better end result.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. This is a three-part question.
Sure.
What are three kind of like non-negotiables throughout your day? Like three things that you have to do every day to keep you running at that.
Engaged?
Well, and just, everybody has a different thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's always cool for entrepreneurs to hear about it because everybody's looking for something else to try or another thing to do. And I've got a long list of them that help me, but what are your kind of three top things that you do on a daily basis? Yeah.
There's three things I like to say, attitude, activity, and educate, right? So attitude, when I wake up in the morning, I think to myself, is my mind in the right place? Do I have a good attitude right now? Because my day will go as my mind goes, right? So I'm a big believer that your body, your attitude, everything goes based on how your mind's going. And if I'm not there, I figure out a way how to get there, right? Whether that's a walk, whether that's going to the gym, whether it's, a podcast, whether it's, just how do I get into a great mind space so I'm not only good to my clients, but I'm good to me as well. So that's one. Two, activity. There has to be some action in the day. And, that's different from the weekend or a thing, but who am I helping today? What does my day look like? Because it actually, it affects me and depresses me if I don't have a busy day somehow. If I'm not talking to people, I need that in my profile. I need interaction with people in an altruistic role and how to help them and let's move at a fast pace. Right. So attitude, activity, and then educate. So every day I try to zone in on either a podcast. So I have several podcasts that I like. I have several people that I like. I like Ed Milet. I like Dan Martell. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not on an audiobook or reading a book. Right. And I just ask my friends or people around, just so, what are you reading right now? and what are you listening to? Right now, I'm listening to The Success Principles by Jack Kane.
Yeah. Very cool.
Right? Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's been around forever, but you listen to so many books or you read so many books, you think, I haven't gone to that one yet.
Right.
So that's in my car right now, and I'm enjoying it.
At the conference in Miami a few weeks ago, there was a lot of talk about Good to Great. I read it.
Yeah.
Probably like
it's
8 years ago, something like that. But I'm doing the Audible again now.
Yeah.
And it's just kicking off a couple little
Sure. And you
couple
remember
little triggers again.
You remember something and you think, oh, why didn't I do that because we're human beings. Sometimes life gets busy.
Right.
So you think you listen to that book or you read that book, you think I'm doing everything in this book.
Right.
And then you think, okay, I'm not doing everything in this book. So it's good sometimes just to read something or get into the car and listen to it. And
right.
And I love to call the car as your second university, right? Like
right.
I just love listening to a book and getting into it, or a podcast and just listening to somebody else's point of view.
Right.
And thinking differently. Right. I'm definitely a lifelong learner.
Right.
Sure.
Very cool. It's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning, you find out you've got nothing planned for that day. You got a free day.
Yeah.
You could be anywhere in the world doing anything you wanted to do. Where are you and what are you doing?
So just so I understand the question, so I can actually go and do whatever I want.
You can be anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So I like to explore, right? So I would be in a really cool city, and just exploring different places, different people and whatnot. I'd be in a different culture or a different city.
Right.
Just learning that culture and seeing kind of what their vibe's all about and taking in that culture. So I love going to a local sporting event, whatever that sporting event is.
Yeah.
Right. Even if I'm not
a great way to see culture.
Yeah. Even if I'm not a fan of that sport, I'm just like, wow, look at the people, and wow, they're really passionate about this.
Right.
Or they're going crazy right now. And this is great to see, or where do they hang out, or what do they eat, or what's a cool area and whatnot. So I like to explore. I'm a lifelong explorer, and I just like to look at different cities and areas of the world and just say, hey, let's take it all in, because I believe life is very short. And hey, life's getting longer now.
Yes.
Right? Because with all this AI stuff coming out, they actually said, I heard this stat the other day on a podcast. I don't know, you ever listen to Gary Brecka?
Oh yeah, all the time.
So Gary Brecka says right now, somebody born today has the ability to live to 120 years old.
Right.
With very little, pills and all that stuff.
Right.
It's based on knowing how to eat, how to work out, and they're gonna and their lifespans are getting longer. Right. So, even at 120, I think that's too short. I'm one of those people. I want to live forever, right? And I just want to enjoy life and explore and know people and help people.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I love the whole travel thing is my jam too. I love it. Let's touch a little bit about the brand partnership.
Yeah,
with the Wealthy Landscaper. I think we're super excited to get you guys on board. I think we're going to be able to help a lot of people. We've talked a lot about the benefits of Predictive Success. What do people do to get started?
Yeah. So for the Wealthy Landscaper team, what I'm willing to do is if they reach out to me, and I'm sure you'll be able to put my details.
100%. Yeah.
Right. I'll give them, if they just say in the title Wealthy Landscaper, I'll give them a link. We'll give them an assessment. It takes them 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have a personal private read back with them, and just to help them create their self-awareness. And I like to call it become a self-aware leader. And I'm a big believer in, if I know the me, I can manage the we.
Right.
Right. So how do I help that person become a self-aware leader? So I'll do that complimentary for your members. The other thing I'll do for them is I'll do a complimentary role assessment. Wow. So they're all either hiring somebody right now or promoting somebody, or they're looking for one role to be assessed, or it's $1 million company and they're looking for what is the next role I need to have for my company, or a $10 million company, what role am I adding to my company? Right. So I'll do a complimentary role assessment with them. So they have their job posting, what behaviors they're looking for in the role, and then I'll do a personal assessment with them. Are they a self-aware leader? And how can they become a better leader? And I'll do that complimentary. All they have to do is reach out to me. And in in the title, just Wealthy Landscaper.
Yeah.
I don't know I done that for them.
That's amazing. No, we appreciate that. I think everybody listening should take advantage of it. I did it. It was super cool. We did it with the team today. It was even cooler.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to be a customer, and hope that I can help our team as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we're here to help. And it's amazing when you reach out to people and you actually know the person a little better than you think you know them.
Right.
It's amazing how life goes, right?
Yeah, it was a game changer today.
Yeah, for sure. Your team was really engaged. I loved it. And some great questions from your team today.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, thanks for coming on, Joe.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.